Coming up, it's NAIDOC week between July 4 and July 11. This year's theme is Heal Country. Country is inherent to Indigenous identity, and it's more than a place. During this National NAIDOC week, I'm joined by local foodie and chef Jason Davidson, who's made his own discovery about his family's Indigenous history. It's Wednesday, July 7, 2021, and I'm Alan Roebuck. Welcome to Ipswich Today, which acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land on which it is produced and pays respects to elders past, present and emerging. This podcast is supported by Kinetics, people-powered web hosting trusted by Australian businesses since 1999. On today's show, my special guest is Jason Davidson. Jason moved to Ipswich in 1995 to further enhance his career as a chef. He went on to open Figjam Café in Limestone Street and then won the hearts, minds and taste buds of thousands of Ipswich residents through major catering contracts at events and festivals. A little over 20 years ago, Jason discovered some previously hidden family history, and he joins me now. Thanks for speaking with Ipswich Today, Jason.
No problem, Alan.
Let's start at the very beginning. Where were you born and educated?
Okay, I was born in Bendigo in Victoria, educated in Bendigo at Flora Hill High School. Left school when I was 15 in 83 and became an apprentice chef. And started that in a hospital, actually. It was a good place to learn the basics of cooking. Back then, cooking was done all in the hospital, so we brought in whole beefs, half beefs and broke them down. We did all sorts of things in those days. So it was a really good learning experience. What
are your earliest family memories?
I used to love playing footy and tennis and cricket. I was very sporty when I was young. When I was a young fella, school was just up the road, so I just had to walk down the hill. And then lots of time, summers were spent in the local swimming pool, and basically playing sport and hanging around my house.
You've told us about your first job at the hospital. Was there something happening at high school that sort of led you to that job?
Yeah, high school, you could get to have a crack at most things at school when you can play with timber or metalwork or cookery. So we had a year in year 8, we had a year of cookery, and I really liked it. I took to it like duck to water, really, and enjoyed it. And plus, I was one of the only boys in the classroom with heaps of girls, so that was even better.
So that really toughened you up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because it was the girls that did the cooking. It was very, typecast at the time. Young people today, though, looking at a career as a chef, have so many more role models in the media. Did you have any back then?
Not really. There certainly wasn't any things like MasterChef or any of those sort of shows. I just sort of liked it. I like cooking. Mum always let me do whatever I wanted in the kitchen, so that was always fun. I always made cakes and that for my granddad for his 80th and all that sort of thing. And yeah, I don't know if they were that good, but everyone said they were all right.
There was none left by the sounds of it. Now, after the hospital, where did your career take you?
Well, I spent probably a year and a half, my first sort of year and maybe into my second year of my apprenticeship, and then I got a job. I was sort of looking elsewhere then, so then I got a job on a seafood restaurant down in Lakes Entrance, which is down in Gippsland, and that was an awesome job. It was a floating restaurant, and one occasion, or several occasions actually, we used to get really busy and sell out of the sand crab and bouillabaisse, which we had on the menu, and the chef used to get me to go and get more crabs, but I had to catch them. So
oh no.
We just threw the net over the edge. Back in those, I'm talking early 80s, so there's still plenty of fish and crabs and stuff.
Yep.
Threw the net over the side of the pontoon, and 10, 15 minutes later, pulled up 3 or 4 fresh crabs, and we threw them straight in the pot and right ready for the next order. So
wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, so that was a really great memory. Those place was called Sloop John D.
From there,
you want to Google that?
Yeah, well, we'll have to do that. So you made your way, sounds like you did a bit of a travelling road show and you ended up in Queensland. So what happened between then and now to get to Ipswich?
Yep, so basically after few months, probably 6 or 8 months, I travelled back up to Bendigo, got a bit of homesick, so went up there and got a job in a bistro and did all that sort of bistro cooking and all that sort of thing, and another small restaurant. And then I was playing football playing Aussie rules at the same time. So then a mate of mine was up here in Queensland. He was coaching the University of Queensland Red Lions. And I just finished my apprenticeship, so I was a free agent. And so I come up here and started playing footy. So yeah, that was what was that, sort of late 80s, sort of about 87. Yeah. So I come up here and then I sort of took off with a mate and went travelling around up through Asia, through India, and ended up in Europe.
And how lucky are you to do that? You couldn't do it today.
No, exactly. There's a few issues now. Yeah, you feel sorry for our generation of kids coming through. You know, they've got such opportunity. They can work anywhere in the world with this digital stuff, but at the same time, they can't travel because, you know, this dreaded COVID. So it is sad for these kids of today, but I guess they'll adapt. You know, that's one thing they will do is adapt. But yeah, so I just worked over. I worked in a restaurant in Ipswich, believe it or not, in Suffolk.
In the UK, yeah.
So I worked in a fine diner in the UK, and also worked in a chalet in Austria. So come back to Australia again after that.
It was about 1995 that you landed in Ipswich, Australia, back from Ipswich in the UK. Why did you choose Ipswich?
Why did we choose Ipswich? Actually, I've missed a bit of a chapter there.
All right. Well, you better give us that chapter then.
I came back from Europe and came back up to Queensland again, and then I decided I wanted to go to Canada. So and being a chef, you can work pretty much anywhere in the world. So I took off to Canada, and that's about the same time as I met my wife, Michelle. I met her in Australia just before I left. And then went over to Canada for a couple of years, worked over there in Italian restaurants on the side of the mountain, Whistler Mountain, just out of Vancouver.
Very famous spot.
Yeah. So I worked there in the Italian restaurant. We sort of, where we lived was like 100 metres from the chairlift. It was awesome. So we did a lot of skiing, a lot of cooking pasta, the Italian restaurant. And then we got pregnant and come back to Australia. And at the time, we had nowhere to go. All we had was a backpack and a baby coming, and probably a lettuce box to put him in to sleep in. So that was about all we had.
You then had to start taking life seriously.
Yeah. Well, that's it. So we came back to Queensland because that's where Michelle was from. And her sister and brother-in-law were at the boys' grammar school as sporting masters. They had a spare room downstairs, so we lobbed in there with our young fella.
And that's how you ended up here?
Yes, that's exactly how I ended up here.
It's a big move from being an employee, travelling the world on your meal ticket, which was being a chef, to actually opening your own business. Tell us about how Figjam Café came to be.
I started working at the Steakhouse actually for Gary and Wynn Parcell, and together we sort of got that going. And an opportunity. Everyone said, "Why don't you open a restaurant?" And I thought, well, okay. And a fellow called Peter Ray said, "Well, I've got a building in Limestone Street. Are you interested in going into that?" So I said, "Yeah, cool." So we went into there, and as we've been away for so long, I'd never heard of this term Figjam. So a friend of mine, Anne Brazel, who lives on top of the hill there, she said to me, "Why don't you call it Figjam?" And because I was overseas for so long, I thought, yeah, Figjam. Yeah, well, that's food orientated. That's fantastic, and I like it. And and then she told me what people who say that sort of thing was meant. I thought, yeah, that's it. That's the name of our that's the name of our business right there and then.
Well done. I imagine it was a sharp learning curve owning the business and still being passionate about food.
Yes, absolutely. And that was 25 years. Well, what is it? Yeah, 25 years ago. It was a long time ago. So I've learned a hell of a lot. I've been in the school of hard knocks. We've gone through a lot of different things and difficult things along the way. If it wasn't for the support of my family, and we probably wouldn't to be where we are today. But certainly is. It's not like going into a kitchen and just cooking up something and knowing that people love your food, but you've got to sort of make a dollar out of it as well. So that's the challenge of owning your own restaurant.
Was the cafe the jumping off point for you to take on other catering for large events and festivals?
It was a bit of, like, we were doing a bit of that as Razor Sharp catering prior to when I was at with Wynn and Gary.
Mm-hmm.
So we're doing a bit of catering, and then Pete sort of come up with that idea that we should open a cafe. So the sort of sounding or jumping stone from the catering into the cafe, and then it just made sense that it all become one business. So then we became Figjam Catering and Cafe. So that's how it sort of went from there. And then we sort of grew from the cafe just by everyone knowing who we were in town, really.
Am I right in thinking that the former Ipswich Festival Ball held over at the workshops was your biggest or one of your biggest undertakings? Yes, that was a one-off event. We sort of got around the 500 mark in the shed over there, which was always a challenge. And we did a few of those. We did quite a few of those actually, and they're always a big challenge. Like, you got to set up a makeshift kitchen and feed people, like 500 people, and so the systems. And we got the grammar school boys to help us dish up, and that was a good experience for those boys as well. And so it was one of those events that was always a challenge. It was, you knew you were in for a 100-hour week when you had the mayor's ball on the Friday night. Figjam Café eventually ran its course in Limestone Street. How many years were you there?
7. We were there 7 years.
And what did you take on next?
In that sort of 7 years, there's something wrong with me. I can't sort of concentrate on one thing at a time. So the Ipswich Club sort of, someone said, the Ipswich Club's up for lease. So I thought, that sounds like a great opportunity. And I really loved it. So I had a good chef with me at the time. So I said, righto, you look after this and I'll zip over to the Ipswich Club. And so we did that. And then, so the Ipswich Club was a beautiful place. We had a lot of weddings through there. So that was a nice memories as well, especially the old ghost there. That was lovely. Yeah,
I've heard a few stories. Have you been there on your own? Have you been disturbed?
I've been downstairs in the office lots of times and heard people walking around upstairs and go up there. There's nothing there. It's just like, whoa, okay.
A little over 20 years ago, we're going back to your family history now, Jason. A little over 20 years ago, you had time to discover and rediscover your family history, and NAIDOC Week is a good time to ask you about the uncovering of your own Indigenous family history. How did this come about?
One day I was at work and the phone rang and there was this bloke on the line and he said, "G'day, I'm your dad." I went, "Oh, right, okay. There you go." And I knew I had a dad, obviously, but I knew I had a stepdad. So anyway, we arranged for him to come up, and the kids. We had a couple of kids, Jacob and Abby, at that stage. So that was around I was around 30 years old. So he came up, and funny thing was, we were down in the backyard chatting, and Michelle was in the kitchen, and she said she couldn't tell who was talking. We both sounded so alike. So
Wow.
it was quite amazing, actually. It was like I've never. He left when I was 4. My mum and him split up when I was 4. So I didn't really know him, but just the habits and all that is so familiar. It's amazing, really. But I met him, and then we've sort of got to know him for over the last 20 years, and met the extended family and cousins, and they're all down in Victoria in South Australia. But it's been a fabulous ride.
Can you describe how you were feeling as you got deeper and deeper into this family history?
I'm feeling a bit saddened, actually, that I sort of missed all those chapters in my life. It was something I'd really love to have been part of, and learn a lot of our heritage. Like there's so much interesting things, especially around that southwestern Victoria and like Gutterjamara and the lakes there with the fish traps and all that sort of thing. It's all part of our history of thousands of years, and it's like, it's something that I'd sort of missed, being separated from my family and cousins on that side, my dad's side. So it has been a journey, an emotional journey, and I can understand how these people feel with this lost generation. Like, I can certainly feel for how they feel now. Yeah.
So you really identify now with your mob, and who are they?
The Gutterjamara and Narrandjeri, and my grandmother, she's Muindic from the mouth of the Murray in South Australia.
So that's the Coorong area, yeah. So you got connections with South Australia and Western Victoria.
Yes, but they're fabulous, and my cousins are doing some amazing things down there for the Indigenous people. So I'm really proud. Yeah.
You've taken the original name of Figjam to create the online store Figjam Co. based at North Ipswich, and fleshing out your Indigenous history. You've really thrown yourself into traditional bush tucker in the menu options. Tell us about your bush tucker learning journey.
Well, that's given me a new skip in my step, to be honest, Alan. I've cooked all over the world. I've worked in 5-star hotels and all the rest of it, what chefs do. But I needed something new, and to give me another kick along in the business. And I'm discovering native foods and Indigenous foods, and got some great mentors and likes of Dale Chapman up on the sunny coast. She's teaching me so much about ingredients and things, and I'm just meddling with it and creating recipes based on my knowledge of my travels around the world, and using Indigenous ingredients to enhance the recipes, and also enhance the bush food tucker as well. So it's been awesome. I'm really loving it again. Like I've got my passion back.
I don't think you ever lost it, Jason.
Oh, I don't know.
You don't know.
Throw a bit of COVID in there. And
well, look. Let's talk about that. How has that affected your business and you personally?
Basically, one of the other big events we do is the CMC Rocks out at Willowbank. We've done that for 5 years, feeding the backstage and the crew. And that's a fabulous event for us. Like, that's a real injective income into our year. And it was Friday the 13th. I'll never forget the day of March, Friday the 13th of March. The Grand Prix was, the Melbourne Grand Prix was on that Friday. That's a Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And bang, they said, it's been cancelled by this thing called COVID. I've gone, oh my God. Anyway, I was talking to Annie from Chug Entertainment, and she goes, it's not looking good, because we were supposed to start on the Monday, the 16th of March.
Yes.
So we're all set up, we're all ready to rock and roll, and pardon the pun, and got the cancellation note. So that was the start of it for us. Yeah.
So that just knocked the wind out of your catering sales completely for a good while.
6 months.
Yeah.
6 months I didn't earn $1.
But You've fought on, and here we are. What is it? A year and a half into COVID. How's things travelling for you now?
Yeah, well, I think we've all sort of learned to accept it and get on with life. Once we all get the jab, they're trying to get us to get the jab. I think everyone will have a bit more confidence in moving around and doing things as per pre-COVID. So, yeah, no, things are on the mend. It's going to take me a couple of years to catch up where we left off. But, you know, you got to think positive, think forward, and think about, you know, how we can move on. You know, we can't sort of sit around and be sad. So we've moved on. We're realising what's happening, and so we're Supply Nation certified now. I went to a meeting at Fire Station 101. Actually, it was an Indigenous business meeting, and this lady asked if I was part of the Supply Nation network, and I said no, and she said, well, you should be. So I signed up, and it's been the best thing we've done. It's opened up a whole lot of doors to the corporate.
So what's it called, Jason? The Supply Nations Network?
Supply Nation, yeah.
And what does that bring to you?
It's Indigenous businesses. So we're 100% Indigenous owned. So we're certified Supply Nation.
Mm-hmm.
And so that opens up a lot of doors for these big corporate companies who want to deal with Indigenous companies. So it's really, really pushed us along nicely.
Fantastic news. Let's finish up with, again, talking about NAIDOC Week. What does NAIDOC Week now mean to you since you've uncovered your Indigenous family history?
Well, NAIDOC, to me, is a celebration of who we are and what we bring to Australian society. And the more I discover, the more intriguing it is of our history and how we share and how we love each other. I think that's something that is really unique within the Indigenous community. Is you just feel so comfortable when you're with talking with people. So that's probably what NAIDOC means for me. It's acceptance from everyone on who you are and where you are and what you're doing. So, yeah.
Jason Davidson from Figjam Co, thank you so much for taking time out to talk with Ipswich Today.
No worries. Thanks, Alan.
Ipswich Today is supported by Kinetics, people-powered web hosting trusted by Australian businesses since 1999. This podcast is also listener-supported. Please make a once-only gift or regular donation to help keep it online. Just go to ipswichtoday.com.au and click the donate button at the bottom of the page. You can follow this podcast on your favourite app, including iHeartRadio, or play Ipswich Today from your smart speaker. Music is supplied by Purple Planet Music. This is Alan Roebuck. Thanks for listening.